This one here, right? Yeah, exactly. So, this is a really special session for us because we have one of us. One is an alumnus of RSM. He studied the MBA. What year did you graduate?
2017.
2017. That's a while now.
Little.
I'll let you introduce yourself and give you the rest of your background. But what I really want to highlight is this is one of the special parts about these events that we do is that we have such a fantastic talent pool in our alumni movement. We love to draw on that and share what we know. So if you're inspired by Juan's presentation today, we would love to hear whether you have something that you would like to present at one of our events or maybe at this event next year. We're always happy to hear what ideas you have and how you can strengthen the work that we're doing. I don't want to waste any more time, so Juan, back to you.
Thank you so much, Alice. Hello, guys. How are we doing today? How's the energy level? Quite high. Very good. Very good. 4 o'clock in the middle of a Friday. So, guys, basically RSM came to me with this idea of a session related to conquering the mid-career plateau, right? And when Bruno asked me, well, what can you come up with for this session? I had a lot of things that I could relate to because I think everybody in this room has been in this position where they were an individual contributor, you reached the first management position that you have, and you started delivering great work. Your work ethic didn't change. You delivered excellent projects. You delivered stuff on time. You delivered stuff that you thought was impactful. But at some point, the reward for that effort didn't come through, right? And why would you think that you would need different skills if already delivering very well got to the manager position that you're at right now, right? So one of the things that I've discovered also during my journey with Alumni and interviewing a lot of CEOs is that the only thing that it takes is a shift of mindset and focus because the skills you already have. So Alice mentioned very well, I did an MBA here. I don't know who also did an MBA in this room. I think we have at least a couple, but I don't know how many of you can relate of using absolutely every single skill that you learn in the MBA after for your work. I think mostly maybe like 20 or 30% of the skill set that you learn in the MBA became the day-to-day activities you did in the end. And what I really wanted to do is create something, an MBA program type that could take the things that we don't know about. So all these soft skills and the things we call understanding these things that we call company politics, that a lot of times determine whether someone moves forward in an organization or not. So with that in mind, can anyone tell me already who's been already 2 years in their current position? So what has been that experience? How do you think that the leadership in your organizations is? Yeah.
I think I'm a business manager in a mental health care facility for I think 8 years now in that position. I think they see me because they also offered me to do the executive MBA, which I finished last year.
Right.
So that's thank you. So that's good. And also they are offering the next step. My problem is that I don't know who wants to do that. So that's why I'm at this event. But the company politics is something that I don't like or it don't come naturally. So I'm really curious about how to bring those two together.
Beautiful. Anyone else would like to share their experience?
Maybe different people on that. Doing team lead for roughly 4 years, lead consultant for roughly 5-ish, and appointed for higher roles, never offered formally for obvious reasons. Company politics most often. And I currently see a glass ceiling to multiple factors, irrelevant for the case, but that means that if I want to stay on the company that I'm doing or the line of duty that I'm actually executing, I already reached a plateau and I will remain there for a while. I'd rather not. So what to do?
It's very good because that's something that we will tackle exactly in this session at the end. Because it's not only about the right skills that you need or the right behaviors that you need to have when you're in a company, but also are you in the right environment that will facilitate your growth? And how do you know if the company that you are on is a place where you are going to be having that growth, or if you already need to start for the next opportunity? So let's get honest first. What do you think is the average time that someone takes to go from manager to a senior executive in an organization in Europe on average?
It depends.
Very good. On average, what would you say?
I've seen people do this in 6 months, and I have seen people who are struggling for 20 years. So I've seen both the spectrums.
10 years then? 15. It's a very good estimate. In Europe, it's actually 15 to 20 years since the moment you're appointed manager in an organization to make it to a vice president or executive role on average. What we're going to try to do with this session is actually try to shorten that time by having the right behaviors. It's of course a long-term commitment and a long-term behavioral change that we need to undertake in order to reach those goals. But let's do a little dive and see how it goes. So why am I giving this session today? First of all, well, I work in one of the largest venture capital firms in Europe, the most active investment company worldwide at the moment. It's called InnoEnergy. We basically invest in every single startup that you can think of that it's related to the energy transition. So not only the energy transition, also industrialization. For example, creating fertilizers out of hydrogen, steel, and other different things that Europe will need in the coming years as we become more independent and we need to be more self-sufficient. But what was one of the problems that this company had? Well, we didn't have enough staff, right? There was a point, just like in your career, sometimes there's a point where the same skill set doesn't take it to the next level. In our companies, we have a point where we need additional talent to take the company to the next level so that we can get revenue and reinvest. So the way that the company decided to solve this problem was to partner with 7 universities across Europe to create some master's programs to get the engineering talent that we are lacking very sorely in Europe at the moment. And even then, we had these people joining the companies, very excited with all these hard skills, being A-level executors and A-level people. But then at some point, a 3-year period after they graduate, they get their first managerial role, and the glass ceiling that you were mentioning happens, right? They get stuck because the same behaviors that took them to the manager role are not the same behaviors that are going to take you to the next stage of your career development. So to solve that problem, I created this executive development program called The Road to the C-Suite, where basically I'm taking a lot of high potential talents that are already heads of department, directors, senior managers, in all these soft skills and feel for company politics that you need in order to make the move to your next level. And today we're going to demystify what company politics actually mean. So a lot of times we get angry at it because we don't understand it. And this session will hopefully demystify it. And one really cool thing about my program is that the advice that I'm giving in the program does not come directly from me. It comes from some of the top CEOs around the world. This is Jenna Peterson. She's the CEO of a company called Injexi Foundation. She is trying to revolutionize finance through blockchain. But we have people that have been senior vice presidents of the New York Times. We have people from DKB Mobility. We have people from HomeServe, like companies that have over 2,500 employees in a lot of cases. And when you hear them speak, there's a red thread that starts to clean. What is this red thread? They became CEOs because they acted like the CEOs of their own career. So it's a very different mindset of saying, like, I'm executing excellently in the initiatives that I have versus I have a plan and I'm going to show my organization that the investment that they are making in me is going to get multiplied over 10 times. We just launched this program actually last October in Barcelona. This is called the Business Booster, one of the largest energy conferences that are in Europe. This is my group. And the really cool thing is that we've only been doing this for a couple of months. 3 of them already transitioned into their next role. That's 30% of the class, basically, already transitioned to a new role, and we're only 4 months in. And basically, we have all these components that relate to coaching, fixing this skill gap between the skill set that a manager needs versus the skill set that an executive needs. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So a little bit about the agenda. We're going to transition your mindset from being a really good executor to being a really good strategic leader, because it takes a completely different skill set. We're going to understand what is organizational currency, which is all of these things that we call politics, right? We're going to demystify it, give them a number, give them behaviors so that you can do those behaviors and make sure that you can start gaining that currency to trade it for your next position. And success factors, which are visibility, your internal network, and readiness. How will you prepare to actually be promoted? Also, at the end, very important that Fernando mentioned, right? How do you know that you're in the right organization, or you need to be ready to jump ship at some point? And how do you prepare to make that move to another organization? And we're going to be also doing a couple of exercises. So it's not going to be just me talking for an hour, but you're actually going to have some tangible output out of this session. So let's get started. So right now, what kind of asset do you guys feel that you are for your organization? I'm going to show you a little comparison of the difference between an executor and a strategic leader. Take a read and let me know on which side of the screen do you feel you relate the most. So by show of hands, who is in the stock high performer side at the moment? Being very honest, okay, good, good. Who feels that they are already on the line of the fast track executive? We have one over here. Why do you think that?
I recognize a lot of the things I see in the right column. Of course, it doesn't mean that tomorrow I'm going to be CEO of the company, but I can really identify in the environment around me that they also promote it. They want people to step up, but they also give the guidance for it. I actually work here, so I'm not advertising anything, but
I also work here. You advertise the worst. So I can relate.
there's no cameras, right?
No cameras, no cameras. But all right. So this is the mindset basically that we have to take in, right? If we are not completely in the, it's your right? Your right hand column, then we are not going to approach the promotion that we're looking for.
Will you share slides or?
You can take pictures. Yeah, feel free.
What my experience is that whether it is a fast track executive or a stuck high performer, nobody has all the traits. So there are some fast track executives who have, last 3 points of a stuck high performer, but they have the first 3 points of a fast track executive. So it is always a mix. It is not a clear cut boundary as you have presented. But then what matters is that when it comes to the decision making point, which of your behaviors are valued?
Exactly.
That changes the paradigm.
Exactly. So I think we agree completely. So this is why we are moving to this part of understanding organizational currency. And I'm going to deliver a really brutal line, but it's a very true line, unfortunately, which is that promotions are not a reward, they are a business decision. If the leadership in your organization doesn't think that they will get an ROI out of investing in you, they will not make the decision to promote you, even if you are doing excellent work for many years in your organization. So, unveiling a little bit what company politics look like, actually. I'm presenting you right now what is the triangle of organizational currency. These are the 3 behaviors or the 3 things that senior executives need to see from their employees in order to promote them. Number 1, is influence. So who here feels that they are working in a siloed environment? How does that look?
Essentially, we do have connection with the management, and they say that it's a flat hierarchy. Nevertheless, when you make decisions or when you want to create praises, you're talking to the walls essentially. So they hear, but they don't listen. And you end up promoting people or trying to promote people, and the decision is just double checked by the management as well. So yes, apparently the walls or the silo is there, and it's just a glass so they can see you. They say they wave to you, but that's it.
So this is a very important fact, actually, Fernando. Who here has access to their executive team? And how are those conversations with your executive team going, for example? Do you feel that they understand exactly what you bring and contribute to the organization? How does that reflect?
Well, it's also part of my role. So I work in strategy. So basically the main purpose of my role is to bring stories and decisions to executives. So then I see my job as making them successful. So it's also, in a sense, I think the reason they listen to me is because they've asked me a question, and then kind of their job sometimes also depends on it, right? So then if their skin's in the game, they will inevitably be a bit more interested than if it's just business as usual.
Julia, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Julia is absolutely correct. Who here in this room can say that their executive knows and listens to what they are saying in terms of changing stuff in the organization and what value that brings? Show of hands. Don't be shy. Okay, not at the moment. So then influence is something very good that we're working on, because we are going to create today an influence map where you know who are the people that need to know in your organization exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how does it impact the organization.
Which I can say that sometimes it happens, but sometimes it doesn't happen. Because whatever ideas you are promoting or revealing, you don't have all the information. So the management has some information which you don't have. And based on that information, sometimes your ideas are not relevant. So again, influence is a very tricky, fluid definition. Sometimes you are influential, sometimes you are not.
But the times that you mentioned you are not influential are because you didn't understand what management was thinking. Would you agree? There was a block of information between you and the.
No, I think if I would have had the same information as management, I wouldn't have given the idea.
You wouldn't have, exactly. Because that idea then is not relevant.
So the difference is the amount of information.
Exactly. So one of the main reasons why influence is so important is basically because you need this transparent flow of information between whatever you are contributing to the organization and whether it's relevant to the strategic goals of the organization or not. Revenue. Who here knows exactly what kind of monetary value or impact they deliver to the company at the end of the year? Sales?
No, I manage a portfolio of projects.
Beautiful. Can you tell us how do you show the leadership that this is the amount of revenue or impact in the P&L?
It's quite straightforward. I know what my costs are. I know where my revenue comes from, and I know like how much I make per year, and at what margins. And I also know how I can influence to improve the margins or get additional businesses, cross-sell, and so on and so forth. But that's a very transactional view. That's how because I work for an organization which has got about 350,000 people. Right. I have a team which is about 120 people. So you can imagine the size and scale of it. So it is seen as a transactional thing, though a big one and a high impact one, high visible one, yes, but it's still a transaction.
Exactly. Very good point. Who here is in a non-transactional role? Over here.
So it's about, okay, so not in the sales, so I don't have numbers. We work, again, I work in the same portfolio management role where we have different projects, but these are more the operational or the business side, where we implement something, there is a governance, but you cannot monetize it. You cannot show how much difference did you make. Okay, project is successful, you delivered this, that's good. Someone else could have done the same. So it would be difficult to really measure and showcase that that's the impact you are having on top or bottom line.
That is a very good point, and one of the points that actually make you promotable and also helps you negotiate your salary every year at the end of the year when you have this conversation on, hey, do I deserve a bonus? Do I deserve a higher salary? If you don't know exactly that number, then it's very hard to justify it in front of your manager. And a lot of times we will have jobs that do not have directly to do with sales, but then the thing that we need to do is create a tracking system where every behavior that we have in the organization has a certain monetary value. How would you basically go about it? Is trying to figure out if my company hired X amount of people to do this job, what would it cost them? And then you put it in the value tracker. And at the end, you have a number where you can tell the management, this is exactly what I'm worth at the end of the year. Third of all, what you mentioned very, very intelligently is judgment. Are you solving the right problems or are you proposing solutions that are not relevant to the direction of it? So,
Yuan,
yes.
on his point, because there is always the information gap, right?
Mhm.
Management leadership would be knowing the data which you do not know.
Mhm.
So how can you know that you don't know?
Exactly by building your promotion map, which is trying to find which are the stakeholders that actually have that information in the organization and making sure that you have regular talking points or contact points with them. A lot of the times organizations do not facilitate that out of their kind heart. So it's up to you as a performer inside the organization to try to track those people in the organization, try to understand their problems and try to feel what are their pain points and how can I solve them, right? So this is exactly what we're going to work on for the first stage, which is building your promotion map and increasing your influence. And really important for me to say, visibility in your company is not about being vain that you're the most popular person or the most popular guy in the company and everybody knows who you are. But why it's important is that people know what you do and why it matters to the strategy of the organization. If at this moment you don't have an elevator pitch where you meet someone in a coffee in your organization and you can say exactly these are the 3 strategic projects that I'm working on and this is the impact in the bottom line that I'm having, then you're letting go a lot of opportunities to actually impact and have visibility on your goal. So, for example, the second question, right? Who knows what you do and why it matters? That's the question that we need to solve today. Because if other people don't know what you do and why it matters, then why would they promote you? Also, this part of the information gap. If you do not understand the problems of the CEO, why is the CEO going to say like, oh, let me give this person 3 times the money and 8 times the responsibility because they don't understand what I'm doing, right? So it's really up to us as really good professionals to try to break those silos, be external looking, and actually having conversations with these other stakeholders in the organization. And the last part is who in the organization can be your internal champion or your promoter. So if at the moment there's no one in the executive team or the senior management that believes in you, your most important mission is finding that mentor or that person in the organization that is going to advocate for you in all those executive board meetings that happen every quarter. So, exercise 1. We're going to be building our influence map and our elevator pitch. So those 2 things we're going to practice with one another right now. So pick the person that is right next to you, try to give them an elevator pitch based on how do you impact your company, what is it that you do, and what's the monetary value that you bring or aim to bring this quarter, what are the priorities of your organization in the next 6 to 8 months. And once you have that pitch, share it with the other person and try to find in LinkedIn who can be a good department lead that you can connect with to start understanding the world outside of your team, who is a good cross-functional executive that has his hand in a lot of pies, different teams in the organization. So this person can also promote you with different teams and you just need one stakeholder that believes in you versus a lot. Who can be your mentor or internal advocate, and how well do you understand the CEOs and the executive board of your organization? So if you have your phone with you, go to LinkedIn right now, try to find these 4 people in your organization and discuss why these 4 people are relevant. Yes.
Sometimes very hard.
So basically, if you manage them, they will
They were. It's also a little like, at least
Just one quick thing. Just one quick thing, because I don't see a lot of people writing. You need to write actually who is one of those people, right? So go on LinkedIn and try to find exactly who could be those executives, because I'm going to ask you back what people you actually find.
Yeah.
And why are they relevant to you?
Big challenge. I understand, but that's the thing of the exactly independent business. Basically influence the management. They replace me. I have plan what the instructions and guidelines, figures, pieces and tools to allow them to have the same level of knowledge and expertise and
Situation today, the reason why I want to be, they are not allowing me to create a chat. There is no mechanism. Whenever I try to create this mechanism, I got a no step. I went as high as diminishing the right. I don't have that.
I think that means that you are exactly in that case that I'm going to accept. Is how they jump. Hopefully you have a lot of names written down already.
So I just had a question about the cross-functional executive, right? So can you give some examples to just who could that person be?
So it depends on organization and organization.
Yeah.
But for example, project director,
Yeah.
right? Because they have pies, fingers in different pies in the
Yeah.
organization. So that would be a very
Right.
good person to advocate for you in front of different executives.
Okay.
So who wants to share their influence map at the moment? And who heard a very convincing elevator pitch, by the way, as well?
Don't do elevator pitch, ， but yeah.
Did anyone do the elevator pitch? Can we do it? Well, can we try it cold? Are you feeling confident or not?
Sure.
Over here. Oh,
Shut your.
so Edwin, yeah. Tell us, what do you do and why is it important for your organization?
So I'm in a consulting firm, Grant Thornton, and I'm in a business unit for business risk services, and I focus mainly on operational risk and IT risk. So I'm not too technical on the cyber part, but more on the organizational governance part. And the reason why that is relevant with today's society, with turbulence in the world, but also increase in rules and regulations, you see an increase in the need for a structured approach to risk management, basically. You can see it from various industry standards. And if I talk IT, I talk about Amazon and Azure and all the rules that come with it and the risks, but also from the European Union on anything that is rules and regulation related. IE Act, Digital Service Act, DORA. And I specialize in the financial services, insurance, banking. I've done that for over 10 years.
Why does your company think that's an important role to have in the organization?
The reason why it's important for my company is because I bring the biggest revenue for my department. And I still continue to do.
Would you have sounded different if you had opened with that statement?
Yeah, it did. But I'm also, thanks to the influence map you just showed us, made me realize that my role has changed a bit since reorganization.
Tell me more, tell me more.
So in the Netherlands, we are consolidating, private equity is consolidating accounting firms. And my firm, Grant Thornton, is being bought up by private equity and consolidated with various other. And they cut out certain people who were my sponsors. They cut me out from certain discussion podia, management meetings, in order to lean down the process. And it made me realize like, I can earn as much money as I want, but it doesn't matter at this point anymore. The top and bottom line contributor is okay, still the top performer, but apparently it's not enough to have a seat at the table. We need more.
It becomes a transactional thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I moved from what was it again? The fast track executive to high performer. I somehow it happened in the last year and a half, and I wasn't aware of it. And I saw people leave, people who mentored me, and I didn't realize it was that important for my career up until this point, where seemingly no one seems to listen to me, even though I bring the biggest revenue. So I should know how to do my job, and I should know how to sell engagements. Yet we're still doing the opposite because some task like someone in London seems to know better.
Which probably they don't.
They don't, because they're not in the EU, so they don't know European legislation. It doesn't matter.
And when you were creating your influence map, what kind of connections start popping up?
So I also realized when I looked at my influence map, like, oh, they changed in the last year and a half. It was the collection that I made. All the people who are now part of the cross-functional executive, CXO, they either block me or they refuse to talk to me. Or they keep deferring me to someone else. But this never happened.
I think then the last part of the presentation is very relevant for you. Who else had another experience that they would like to share?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, actually, I quit my job and I'm restarting the entrepreneurial path, which I did before. I worked for 3 years for a big organization, a corporate organization in the marketing field. So I did my job great, but I just felt like, okay, all the organizational stuff within the big corporate world
doesn't get to do the all organizational structural changes. We didn't get to the actual implementing the things which would bring revenue and profits from the marketing perspective of the organization. So I felt like I'm done.
Okay, okay.
That. So for now, I didn't make any map influence, but that's something to think about when you have your own small business. How to map, for example, have a plan at the bigger corporation. Okay, how to map all the relations and how can I influence those relations so that I'm visible at that company and I get bigger projects at the companies. So that's a good mental practice.
Yeah, definitely. I think that building this kind of influence maps or network maps is not only useful if you are a contributor at an organization. If you are an entrepreneur, you will need the people that are going to be your first advocates, right? If you want to land your first big contract, you cannot just knock the door and say like, hey, I'm a new entrepreneur and I'm going to solve all the problems in the world for you, but you need actually someone vouching for you in the organization. And even if you want to try a different career or a different kind of organization, if you start networking and finding out what are their pain points, what kind of stuff do they need, the conversation that you have when you have the first interview goes completely different, right? So very important that if you found out that the names that you filled out in this list, you don't know them yet, that you try to do it as soon as possible before the year ends. I'm gonna give you one quick example because I also know that we're short on time, but one of my students is the head of innovation in a company. The company is called Select. He's based in Spain. And one of the things that he didn't understand is, okay, why is my innovation project where we are bringing all the new things to market not being seen by the leadership? And I basically asked him point blank, did you ever ask your manager to introduce you to the executive board? No. Okay, so how do we solve that? He actually last month asked his manager if there was an opportunity that he could present what he's doing in Select in terms of innovation for the company in front of the executive board. He connected with the board. And writing the presentation, as he was finishing the presentation, he said, hey, I'm really interested in hearing your point of view in the next stages of the company and how can I contribute? Can we have at least one touch point a quarter where I can update you on what I'm doing and if I'm going in the right direction? And he managed to get the ear of the entire 5 members of the executive board, and now he's in the path to becoming a director in the organization. Because at the beginning, they didn't know what he was doing, right? It was like, okay, we have this new feature and it's very useful and it's very pretty and the users like it, but how does that translate into the strategy of the organization? Which is really important because based on these conversations, my student actually started becoming a multiplier. So a multiplier is a person that makes other teams in the organization and the executives of the organization more productive, right? It's not only about what I'm doing in my own job, but how I'm impacting the rest of the organization and lifting them all up at the same time. And it's someone that usually we see them as kind of the assholes, as he mentioned, right? Like the high-performing assholes of the organization. But usually the influencers are the people that do not hoard credit. They are actually the people like if someone is helping them in a project, they actively share with directors and managers, say, by the way, the advice that Olga made me in this particular project was super useful. And Olga is helping me execute X, Y, and Z. So Olga is also getting noticed, right? It's people that multiply their contributions. And the last 2 things that you need to create, which are revenue and judgment, is basically creating a strategic project in an organization. So who here in the organization has a project that everybody in the organization knows them for?
I created an opportunity to implement and to scale utilization of AI in our daily jobs, but as well in customer stage and product portfolio. So now I'm responsible to coach, train, and develop personnel and techniques. How can we increase revenue? I think the desire is to increase by 5%, selling automation and AI solutions.
So what is that 5% worth for the company? Approximately.
Yeah, it's roughly 20 million.
Really important. So a lot of the times we're spending time in little problems that have little impact in the bottom line of the organization, right? If we don't have this strategic project where we actively identify, second, what business pain does the organization have? And what is a million problem in the company that nobody is currently owning? Then we cannot find that strategic project, because it's also not up to your manager to be trying to find out, okay, what kind of problem do I think Peter can solve in my organization tomorrow so that I can give him a little bit of visibility, right? So if you find this $1 million problem, these are the steps that you need to take in order to make sure that management notices that you've identified a need in the business and that they know you for solving that particular problem in the business. If you want, you can take some pictures. And also one thing that stood out to me during the conversations that we had when you were doing your stakeholder map is that a lot of you have a little bit of trouble translating how do I put monetary value into the things that I do in the organization, the daily things. Does anyone here have a brag file? A brag file? Never created. Very good. Well, a brag file is really important because whenever someone asks you what kind of impact you're having in your organization, you need to come up with some numbers. You need to come up with some tangible stuff that they will remember. So, with this in mind, for example, my role is all about creating relationships. I'm not directly impacting sales. I'm not directly responsible for investments or anything different in the company. However, the relationships that I build and bring to the organization have a certain value. If, for example, I know a CEO and we have a lack of knowledge in my organization and I bring that CEO, it would have probably costed the organization 5,000 to 10,000 euros in order to bring a CEO externally out of their own pocket and bring them in to give a masterclass or a conference about their topic, right? But if I bring them, then I put it in my value tracker, the date, the company, who was the opportunity provider, and the monetary value that that had in the organization. If it's a corporate partnership, an industrial project, a company challenge, even if you get tickets for your colleagues for an organization, because maybe an alumnus is working in a company, for example, here, I knew an alumni that was working in Morningstar and they started giving out free tickets that were costing 700 euros. Over there, I added it to my value tracker. So at the end of the year, I have this subtotal here, and I can say my salary is X amount, let's say 100,000 euros. This is the value that I brought to the organization. Does that compute with you? Does that seem like a fair reward for the revenue that I'm bringing to the organization? Yes or no? And that can be a really good opener for your end of year review, where you discuss bonuses and you discuss others.
Have a very nice conversation.
So I'm going to try to share with you guys the presentation so you can also take a look at the value tracker. It's basically an Excel where you have all your wins recorded. So at the end of the year, you have a conversation with your director, with your manager, and you say, this is the multiplier that I'm bringing to the company. If you put me in a higher position, I'm going to multiply you the same. So imagine if you give me $5 million of responsibility. So, as we mentioned, finding that strategic project is the next big goal after you build your stakeholder map, because you build your stakeholder map in order to understand what is the problem or the pain points that other people in the organization that you're not familiar with are normally having. So once you understand that, you find your $1 million project, you start networking with people inside to see how you can solve it. You present to the management, hey, I found this problem that is worth this amount of money to you. If you give me 300 euros, I will bring you a revenue of 3,000 euros there, right? And then you will be known by this project, and that's the catapult for your next promotion. So these are the steps that a lot of the CEOs took. Like they found a problem in the organization. They said like, hey, this doesn't compute. For example, the CEO of Transavia, whom I talked with, he decided he wanted to be a CEO within 3 years, and he decided, okay, the lost baggage inside the airline is costing us this amount of money. If I reduce the lost baggage by 40%, it saves us this amount of money. Do you think that that could be a strategic project that I could undertake? They gave him the money. He proved that he could do it. And then he got a promotion to the VP role and then the C-suite. Very important, this last point, right? If you're already connected with the people in your company that are going to help you solve the problem, you have to name the project, give it a very cool, sexy name, make sure that you're the lead of the project, and make sure that you frame it in order of the strategy of the organization. Hard truth as well, we were discussing right now, right? One of the biggest problems is that a lot of you are already executing very well in your role. But what happens if you move to a higher role in the organization? What happens to your position and all the obligations that that position has? Would today you be able to say confidently that if they move you upwards, there's another person already in your team ready to take your role? So what is the benefit in the company saying like, okay, I'm going to solve a leak up here, but then I'm going to open 30 leaks down here, right? So very important thing that I was mentioning here was always have some junior person in your team that you're already nurturing to be your replacement. Either because you leave for a new opportunity at a different company or because you're going to move up in your organization. If that thing is not present, you're not ready to be promoted. Simple as that. Because you're giving an extra headache to the company. So just a little wrap up and overview. The triangle of success that you guys need to take into account is this attitude of showing ownership, of trying to take initiative through your strategic project. And especially when it comes to company politics and sometimes not the best organizational behaviors, showing maturity when you're under pressure. The second one, visibility, creating these networking maps to make yourself known in the organization, to consistently have your value tracker with you so that you can showcase your achievement and your worth to the rest of the company. And that is the thing that will eventually build trust so that people can say, okay, now Sofia is ready to move to a higher position because she has shown consistently that she can deliver. And leverage. Why do we create this strategic project? Because we need a project that will create outsized results compared to your current payroll. Now, we also had this tough question in a lot of the conversations that I had here, which is what happens when you're in an environment that is not conducive to your success? If you already tried all these wonderful things that I'm describing in this session, and still the company doesn't see the value or doesn't want to engage. Are you in the right environment for this readiness? Well, here's a little table that can tell you if you are in the right or the wrong spot. So assign to move on. If you already performed excellently, you already had some conversations with managers about moving to the next level, but nothing has happened for 18 months, then that's a sign to move, red flag. If you're outgrowing the company, so for example, a lot of people said like, I'm in a smaller organization and I basically reached the limit of my functional role, also a sign to move along. If they are not investing in you, so if you need certain skill sets and the company is not willing to put money to invest in that. If the company's culture is rewarding the status quo versus innovation and growth, big red flag to move on. Not only because the company is not going to do well in the long term, but also because it will stifle your career in the short term. And number 5, if your projects are suddenly becoming repetitive and you have nothing exciting to look forward to, I think that's the biggest sign, because that means that the projects are not solving the outsized problems that we're trying to solve in the company. So what do you do? Number 1, we already start networking in other organizations. Very important also to have that relationship map that we were talking about. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur, if you're already thinking about switching to another role, the best thing that you can do is knock doors before you need the relationship, right? You need to build trust before you can ask for a job. Attending industry events, This is something very common. So a lot of the students in the program were saying like, oh, I'm really passionate about working for Siemens, right? And I asked them point blank, okay, who's the CEO of Siemens? What is the strategy of Siemens for this year? What are the focus where they are going to make revenue? How does your profile benefit that goal? Right? If you're passionate, a professional that is passionate about something, investigates, research, goes to these kinds of industry events, learns and connects with professionals in the sphere. CV and LinkedIn profile should always be updated. You should always put yourself open to work, no matter if you're the happiest person in your work, always put yourself open to work, share stuff. And number 4, start investing in your professional development to acquire new skills. And I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the lamp list. Who is familiar here with this? So this is something that the Career Center of the MBA always told us at the beginning of the program, which is you have to create a list of 40 companies where your skills can be useful and applied to. And what is the lamp list? You create a list of 40 companies that you're really excited to work for. And why 40 companies and not 10 and not 20? Because a lot of the times people are competing for the roles in the same organizations, right? So if I want to work in AI, then I'm going to go to Amazon, or I'm going to go to Apple, or I'm going to Meta, or I'm going to OpenAI, and you have 900,000 people competing for one job. But if you have a list of 40 companies, that forces your thinking a little bit on understanding, okay, what are other opportunities out there? And maybe there are companies that can even give you a higher salary than all of these big organizations, right? Because at the end, it's supply and demand. Maybe they actually need the work that you're doing. Second part, which is why Erica and Alice are here, right? Are there alumni from RSM working in that organization? Yes or no? What is your motivation? How excited are you work for in that company? The highest is 1, the lowest is 3. Are there positions available, currently growing or not growing? And what you're going to do with that list is simply do a filter, select the top 5 that come here that have alumni yes, highest motivation, and yes positions, and you start creating your network. How do you do that? Go to LinkedIn and say, I want to work in McKinsey and Company. Okay. How many people study in RSM that are working currently in McKinsey and Company? In the Netherlands, 62. Out of those 62, is that an insane idea that you will find one promoter that is going to open the door for you when there's an interview process? So that's exactly how you're ready, right? If you already detected all the red flags, there is no growth. There's no reason to wait for the axe to fall down. Already try to find out what is the next opportunity, start networking, so that when the opportunity presents itself, you can go in and have a very nice conversation. And you already know everything about the strategy of the company. You already know everything about the CEO. What are their goals for this year? How your skill set relates to those. And basically enjoy your new job, creating your new relationship maps. So the main message today, guys, it's a career. We say in Mexico, like careers are marathons, they are not sprints. So really important that you have to keep consistent with these behaviors over and over. Because consistency is key. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to do so. If you want to learn more about the program that I'm spearheading, you can scan this little thing and learn a little bit more about it. I'm very happy to be here today with you guys. I had a really good time. That's okay. Thank you.
Thanks for waiting for one. We have a gift for you. On behalf of all of us, thank you very much. It's always nice to see you back.
Wow, it's good to see you, Alice.
And well, we've come to the best part of the day, drinks in the garden. But actually, we're going to do a networking event. We're going to go downstairs to Maria's, where we were at the beginning, where the nice outdoor garden is, where we're going to have drinks. And there's going to be a little networking activity to help you meet and connect with some other people who maybe don't know yet. Then drinks. But the weather's lovely, and today has been fantastic. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for coming. When you're ready, move downstairs.